Even so, a map that is missing thousands of post offices can paint an equally misleading picture. To mitigate this, I assigned semi-random coordinates to each post office with a missing location, but confined these coordinates to an area within the surrounding county's boundaries. These semi-random post office locations only appear on national maps of the contiguous United States and regional maps of the American West, and are indicated by a lighter, semi-transparent shade of gray in order to convey their uncertain status. The accuracy or inaccuracy of any individual post office is largely undiscernible to the human eye at this scale and with this symbology. In aggregate, the inclusion of these semi-random post office locations provides a more accurate impression of the network than if I had left them out entirely. Several other features of this data set should be kept in mind. First, individual post offices changed names with surprising frequency in the 19th century. Hellbach recorded these events in his data set as if the existing post office with the old name had closed and a new post office with a new name had opened. Because of this, maps of established or discontinued post offices in this book include some post offices that had simply changed names. Second, in addition to changing names, an individual post office might repeatedly close and then reopen within the span of a few years or even months. Rather than recording every one of these closures, Hellbach only recorded permanent closures, which he defined as an office remaining out of operation for at least 10 years. More fleeting post office closures and reopenings are not represented on the maps. If anything, then, the maps understate the Western postal system's instability, one of the book's core arguments. I relied on several additional data sets to generate the maps and charts in this book. Claudio Sant generously provided spatial data that tracks the changing boundaries of unceded native land and government reservations over the 19th century. I then made some minor corrections to the shape files in this data set. State and territory boundaries come from Lincoln Mullen and Jordan Brett's invaluable USA Boundaries R library, based on shapefiles produced by the National Historic Geographical Information Systems. Any other sources of data used in a specific map or chart have been noted in its caption. Finally, unless otherwise stated, all the maps and charts in this book were generated using the R language for statistical computing, with a particular reliance on the Tidyverse and SF libraries. Introduction. The Gossamer Network. I had forgotten where I had left my overcoat, wrote Clark Thompson on January 20th, 1864. A regional supervisor for the federal government's Office of Indian Affairs, Thompson had been visiting the Yankton Indian Reservation in Dakota Territory on official business when he lost his coat. Unwilling to delay his trip, Thompson found a replacement and pressed on with his winter journey. When he eventually reached his office in St. Paul, Minnesota, he wrote a letter to one of his acquaintances back at the Yankton Reservation, telling him that his old coat was up for grabs. The entire letter was just 4 sentences long. There was no official business, no discussion of his trip, not even any complaints about the weather. It was just a few lines about an overcoat. Clark Thompson did not go on to alter the course of American history. Neither, presumably, did his overcoat. Clark's letter was utterly unremarkable, the historical equivalent of a 21st century text message. But it wasn't the 21st century. It was the dead of winter in 1864, in the midst of the U.S. Civil War, on the outskirts of the nation. Despite this, Thompson was able to dash off a few lines about a misplaced overcoat, seemingly without a second